Have you ever felt bothered by something that shouldn't affect you? Maybe a negative comment, a situation beyond your control, or even a personal tragedy. How many times have you found yourself reacting to things that weren't directly in your hands? What if I told you that the Stoics, ancient thinkers, discovered how to live immune to these external influences? They learned that, to live a peaceful life, it's not what happens around us that affects us, but rather our reaction to these events. Imagine a state of tranquility where absolutely nothing has the power to take away your inner peace. This is possible, and in this video, I'll show you the Stoic principles that can make nothing affect you. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll learn today might forever change the way you deal with the world around you. What I'm proposing in this introduction is to engage the viewer with powerful questions that challenge their perception of emotional control and the impact of external situations. This approach sparks curiosity and creates a direct connection with the audience. Now that we've set the initial hook, let's move on to the introduction, where we will establish the foundations of Stoicism and begin introducing the principles that will be discussed in the video. Stoicism is not just an ancient philosophy, but a daily practice aimed at transforming our emotional response to life's challenges. The Stoics believed that, although we cannot control circumstances, we always have control over how we react to them. And that, my friends, is a skill anyone can develop. The principles we'll explore today are like tools for building a life immune to suffering caused by what is beyond our control. At the heart of Stoicism is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. For the Stoics, one of the greatest sources of suffering is the human tendency to try to control the uncontrollable. Imagine something happens in your life, an event you didn't foresee or can't change. It could be a colleague's criticism, an unexpected change of plans, or even a personal loss. Naturally, the impulse is to react with frustration, anger, or sadness. According to the Stoics, this is a fundamental mistake. Why? Because our emotional reaction to these situations is not determined by the situation itself, but by how we choose to perceive it. The first major lesson of Stoicism is understanding that your mind is yours to control. When faced with an unexpected event, you have the choice of how to react. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine you have an important project at work, and suddenly, something goes wrong. An error that wasn't your fault. You could let frustration take over, get angry, and even make impulsive decisions. But if you follow Stoic principles, the first thing you would do is analyze the situation clearly. Ask yourself, is this under my control? If the answer is no, then the only healthy choice is to accept the situation with serenity, focusing on a solution rather than clinging to frustration. Another central point of Stoicism is the idea that the world, in its essence, is indifferent to us. No matter how intense or challenging the events around us are, the nature of the world continues to exist as it always has. What changes is our attitude toward these events. The Stoics understood that suffering often does not come from what happens, but from how we choose to react to it. If you wake up and get stuck in traffic, you might feel irritated and stressed. That traffic is something you cannot control, but how you choose to react is entirely up to you. You can decide that this waiting time can be used to listen to something that adds value to your life, to relax, or even to reflect. Instead of reacting with anger, you use your attitude to transcend stress and find peace amid difficulty. The Stoic concept of non-reactivity is a powerful tool. It teaches us to live more lightly, without allowing external pressures to destabilize us. The key is remembering that the world will continue its course, regardless of our reactions, but our happiness depends on how we position ourselves in relation to it. For the Stoics, accepting what we cannot change is not a sign of conformity or passivity. On the contrary, it is an act of great inner strength. Acceptance in Stoicism is the recognition that some aspects of life are beyond our reach, but at the same time, we can choose how to respond to them. Resilience is a concept deeply rooted in Stoicism. The Stoics did not see life's obstacles as something to be avoided or feared, but as opportunities to grow and strengthen character. By accepting difficulties, a person prepares to deal with them more effectively. True strength is not in avoiding suffering, but in developing the ability to face it with calm, courage, and mental clarity. This mindset not only provides peace of mind, but also creates a solid foundation for acting wisely, even in the most challenging situations. The greatest Stoic philosophers, such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, spoke about overcoming adversity in an elegant and rational way. Resilience, then, becomes a virtue that can transform a difficult situation into a moment of learning and personal growth. With this introduction, we have already started to take the viewer on a journey of self-awareness, understanding the context and applicability of Stoic principles. In the next steps, we will continue exploring specific Stoic principles in detail and how to apply them so that nothing can affect you. If everything looks good so far, we can move on to the next part of the script. Now that we understand the foundation of Stoicism, it's time to apply the principles to our daily lives. The Stoics were not just philosophers who pondered abstract theories, but practical people who used these principles as a guide to living with tranquility, no matter what happened around them. In this segment, we'll explore the 4 fundamental Stoic principles that, when applied, make you immune to life's storms. 1. The dichotomy of control, separating what we can control from what we cannot. The fundamental principle of Stoicism begins with the dichotomy of control, which essentially teaches us to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. In every life situation, we can perform this analysis. What is our responsibility, and what should we accept as part of life's natural flow? The dichotomy of control teaches us to focus our energy on the things we can change, while letting go of those beyond our reach. This does not mean we should be apathetic or disinterested in external circumstances, but rather that our mental energy should be used to control our attitude toward events. For example, imagine you are going through a period of financial difficulties. The economic crisis is something you cannot control, but how you react to it is entirely within your power. You can despair, or you can look for creative ways to improve your situation, such as studying new job opportunities or investing in your self-development. Stoicism invites us to use our focus and energy to control our actions, thoughts, and reactions, rather than exhausting ourselves over things beyond our control. When you begin to understand that the only thing truly under your control is your reaction, you free yourself from the burden of anger, frustration, and anxiety, becoming more resilient in the face of challenges. Practical example: imagine you receive negative feedback at work. This can be extremely uncomfortable, but ask yourself, can I control this person's reaction or the reasons behind their criticism? The answer is no. What is under your control is how you respond. You can choose to learn from the criticism, or you can let it affect your emotional state. This is the true freedom that Stoicism offers. 2. Death and impermanence. How embracing the reality of death can help you live better. One of the most profound principles of Stoicism is the reflection on death. This may seem like a somber topic, but the Stoics believed that constantly remembering death was a powerful way to live fully. They did not see death as something to be feared, but as a natural part of life. From this perspective, death not only helps us understand our own mortality, but also teaches us to value the present, live with greater wisdom, and not cling to fleeting things. Great Stoic philosophers like Seneca and Epictetus insisted that meditating on the finiteness of life helps us find a deeper and more realistic perspective. By remembering that life is short and unpredictable, we begin to value what truly matters. What is truly important in your life? Daily worries, minor disagreements, or the quality of the relationships you build? When we are able to see death as something inevitable, we start living with more urgency and focus on what really has value. Practical example: whenever you feel lost in trivial worries, try a simple exercise. Imagine that your life is coming to an end. What would you like to leave behind? What things would you regret not having done? This exercise can put many problems into perspective. Problems that seem overwhelming but are actually temporary and insignificant in the grand scheme of our existence. Instead of being a source of despair, death becomes a tool that helps us live with more intensity and clarity. This is one of the greatest legacies of Stoicism. 3. Virtue as the path to inner freedom. For the Stoics, true freedom does not come from material wealth or social status, but from virtue. Virtue, in the Stoic context, refers to living according to reason and morality, cultivating qualities such as courage, justice, wisdom, and moderation. The Stoics believed that by living according to these principles, one could achieve true happiness and freedom, regardless of external circumstances. When you dedicate yourself to cultivating virtues in your life, you begin to realize that nothing else has the power to affect you negatively. A virtuous person has the ability to remain serene amidst chaos, just in the face of adversity, and wise in decision-making. The pursuit of virtue is, therefore, a journey of self-discovery and self-improvement, making you increasingly independent of external fluctuations. Practical example: think about the virtue of courage. You are facing a difficult situation, perhaps at work or in a relationship, and you feel fear or hesitation. If you focus on the virtue of courage, you will realize that fear does not have to govern your actions. You can do what is right, even in the face of adversity. This inner strength is what makes us invulnerable to external circumstances. 4. The practice of apatheia, liberation from destructive emotions. Finally, the Stoics advocated the practice of apatheia, which should not be confused with apathy, but rather with the ability to be immune to destructive emotions. This does not mean suppressing or ignoring our emotions, but rather learning not to be enslaved by them. True wisdom, for the Stoics, is the ability to feel without being controlled. By achieving apatheia, you become capable of experiencing pain, joy, anger, and other emotions without letting them disturb your inner peace. This is achieved through constant practice of self-control and reflection. Practical example: when you face a stressful situation, such as an argument with someone important, the practice of apatheia allows you to remain calm. This does not mean that you do not care about the situation or the person, but that you do not let yourself be dominated by intense emotions in the moment. Instead, you act wisely, seeking to resolve the situation with rationality and composure. the importance of self-knowledge. Understanding yourself to avoid disturbance. Stoicism teaches us that self-knowledge is a powerful tool to prevent external circumstances from disturbing our inner peace. For the Stoics, understanding our own weaknesses, motivations, and reactions is the first step to attaining true freedom. When you understand your own flaws and limitations, you can work to overcome them. And when you deeply know yourself, nothing can affect your emotional state, because you will be able to anticipate your reactions and prepare for them. This principle is also closely linked to the idea of being the master of oneself. Great Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Seneca stated that to achieve true tranquility, we must seek inner wisdom, which is acquired through reflection and self-observation. It is not about fighting against emotions or ignoring feelings, but about understanding their origins and learning to respond to them in a balanced way. Practical example: if you often find yourself irritated by certain situations, what is triggering this irritation? Is it an unmet expectation, a past mistake? Perhaps you have emotional patterns that repeat themselves, and by identifying these triggers, you can handle them in a healthier and less reactive way. Self-knowledge is the starting point for building an emotionally stable life. The power of now, the importance of living in the present. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of living in the present without getting lost in the past or excessively worrying about the future. Stoic philosophy suggests that by living in the present and focusing our energy on what we can do now, we maintain our peace of mind. This is related to the concept of rational living, which is based on the understanding that the present is all we have, and that acting with virtue and reason in the now is the only way to live well. Obsession with what happened in the past or what might happen in the future often distances us from a fulfilling life. Stoicism teaches us to focus on the actions we can take now, setting aside distractions that pull us away from the present moment. Practical example: imagine you have an important project to deliver at work and are constantly worried about whether it will turn out well. If you focus on what is within your control now, organizing your tasks, concentrating on your work, or preparing adequately, instead of worrying about the outcome, you will be able to move forward with more tranquility and productivity. Control over the present is the key to progress. 7. Acceptance of fate. Embracing circumstances without resistance. Lastly, the principle of accepting fate teaches us to embrace life's circumstances, both good and challenging, without resistance. This is related to the concept of amor fati, which means love of fate. For the Stoics, we should not fight against what happens to us, but accept circumstances as a natural part of life's cycle. This acceptance does not imply resignation or passivity, but recognizing that what may seem like adversity can actually be an opportunity for growth. This principle is also directly connected to the idea that the universe is rational and that everything that happens has a reason, even if we cannot understand it immediately. Acceptance frees us from the suffering caused by resisting the inevitable. Practical example: when something unexpected happens, such as a health issue or an abrupt change at work, it is natural to resist the situation. But if you apply the idea of amor fati, you will realize that even in challenging situations, there is an opportunity to grow, learn, and strengthen yourself. By accepting these situations without resistance, you become more resilient and less susceptible to negative emotional impact. Now that we have discussed the main principles of Stoicism, it is time to consolidate everything we have learned. Stoic philosophy offers us powerful tools to achieve unshakable peace of mind. By applying these principles in your daily life, you will be able to become stronger in the face of life's challenges, more resilient to adversity, and above all, more at peace with yourself. Stoicism is not just an abstract theory, but a practical philosophy that can profoundly transform your life. The application of Stoic principles, the dichotomy of control, reflection on death, the pursuit of virtue, apatheia, self-knowledge, living in the present, and acceptance of fate, makes us stronger and more capable of living a tranquil life, no matter what happens around us. When we start applying these ideas, something magical happens. Our perspective on life completely changes. The external storms that once could have overwhelmed us now become simple challenges we can face with calm and confidence. Our peace of mind becomes something solid and immune to the chaos that may arise on our path. In conclusion, true freedom does not lie in avoiding problems or trying to control the world around us. It lies in our ability to control how we react to life's situations. When we master our emotions and live according to Stoic principles, we achieve a peace that nothing can take away from us. The journey of Stoicism is one of self-discovery, acceptance, and continuous growth. Each day is a new opportunity to apply these principles and move closer to true tranquility. Remember, nothing in the external world has the power to affect you unless you allow it. If you practice this every day, you will become immune to the winds of life.